Hi, I'm Randy Dace and welcome to Coach's Corner. My guest today is Mr. Ron Belinko. Ron, welcome to high school sports scene.
My pleasure to be here, Randy.
And Ron, I didn't mention your title because we don't know what your title is because we heard a rumor that you're retired, but then I heard that you didn't retire. Can you set the record straight for us, Ron?
Randy, June 30th, I'm officially retired from Baltimore County Public Schools with 45 years of service. I'm brought back as, in a consultant role until I could get someone on board to make sure we have a smooth transition in this particular school year.
And we're talking in the Office of Athletics.
In the Office of Athletics, correct.
And I welcome you to high school sports scene, but you used to appear on high school sports scene, right, Ron?
About 27 times.
Well, congratulations, but I know you don't want to hear congratulations because you're still working pretty much 24/7, huh?
Yep, not quite 24/7, maybe just 18/7.
Well, Ron, we had you on today. Let's talk a little bit about, you said 45 years in the Baltimore County Public Schools system is quite a record. And I know you first started out in high school in Baltimore, you graduated of Southern High School.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And tell us about your college experience. Where'd you go to school?
College experience, Randy, I didn't have the opportunity to go to college right away. And so a few years out of high school, I decided to enroll at the University of Baltimore. It was a walk-on for the lacrosse. At that time, lacrosse was ranked in the top 10 in the country at the University of Baltimore. And made the team, received a scholarship, and finished my years there. After graduating, I said, I wanted to go into physical education. At that time, I majored in psychology and education. So I went to Towson University, attended Towson University for my physical education certification. Then went on to Morgan State University for my master's in physical education.
What made you want to become a school teacher?
Randy, I think probably one reason especially those of us that have been involved in athletics, we had people that were an influence on us. Growing up in South Baltimore, it was a pleasure to go to school, and then when you got involved with athletics, the mentors, I can remember every one of my coaches in high school, yet if you ask me who my social studies teacher was in ninth grade, I couldn't remember, but I could go through a whole list of coaches, and they were coach teachers that had a great influence on me, and it sort of steered me in that area.
What school did you first start teaching at in Baltimore County?
Started at Parkville Junior High. It was junior high at the time. Got called up in the military during the Vietnam peak of it and came back and was assigned to Halliburton Junior. And then opened Eastern Tech. And from Eastern Tech, as you know, spent 12 years at Overley High School.
And Eastern Tech, were you coaching sports over there at that time? Started
their first wrestling team, assisted with football, but was the first head coach for wrestling and the first head coach for boys lacrosse.
And I know that you've coached football, lacrosse, wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Was there one, and I get this question all the time, is there one sport you're really partial to, or is it just sort of the season that was the important sport?
I think in other words, each sport had a unique challenge. And as you know, with coaching, you coached three sports, and each one had a different challenge. I know the seasons were overlapped. I don't think at this time, at one point in my career, I coached 3 varsity sports. I was the head coach of football, wrestling, and lacrosse at Overley before I became the athletic director. And you can't do that today. The complexity of the sport, the off-season conditioning required, to devote the time to 3 sports, varsity sports, is just unheard of today.
And I think you're right because it's, as you said, it's a whole new menu that's taken place versus back to the 60s and the 70s. Yeah. So most of your coaching career took place in the 70s and the 80s.
Correct.
And tell me, what type of athletes were you dealing with in those days? Because people who coach now, we say it's a new athlete, but describe the athlete those times.
At that time, I think you had athletes that competed more for the fun of the sport. And when the parents sent them off they signed a release that, here's my son or daughter has permission to play, that the coach was correct in this situation. They wanted to be part of something. They weren't interested in playing time. The playing time developed through hard work and so on. And like today's athlete too, you have to have a goal that you would set. But I think it was much easier to build that team concept rather than an individual concept. And I see today too many athletes, it's all about me and not the team.
Is there one special moment in your coaching career that you could look back and have a flashback right away and say, I remembered that. And I know that's a difficult question, but there's always that one moment, I think.
Those moments probably when you travel around the county and you've been teaching or involved in education in Baltimore County for 45 years, you always run into ex-athletes, even though I've been out of the classroom since 1983. And they'll bring back a memory of something that occurred while we were coaching. But I would say bringing Overly's football up to when we made the state semifinals the last year coaching. The first county wrestling championship that Overly participated in. And it was not only the glory of some of those things, it was the youngsters that were that team and the pride that they took and just watching them celebrate something that they were part of to build it up. When you talk about lacrosse, Overly wasn't a lacrosse power, neither was Eastern. But to have those youngsters in the last game of the season be able to make 4 or 5 passes for a fast break and score a goal and see the looks on their faces, that was very rewarding also.
Now, when you left the coaching ranks, you moved on to administration in 1983 with Baltimore
Correct.
County. Did you miss it?
There isn't any question. You miss it to this day. Being out there, you're part of it now in administration when you were forming programs, supervising programs, setting schedules, and you would attend state championships. You had that great pride when Baltimore County teams won state titles or really played well, but then you were never really part of it.
As an administrator, and I guess I always thought was great, we always saw you at games. You were in the gym, you were on the field, you were at the track, cross country, you were everywhere, and I know you enjoyed it. But looking back on your years since 1983 in administration and running the athletic program, what are you most proud of some of the accomplishments as being in charge? Well,
you go back, and I wasn't in charge at the time, but probably the thing that really started putting Baltimore County athletics in the forefront was back in 1967 when we played our first varsity football schedule, where you had 16 high schools at the time with that big growth. The second thing that really put us on the map, and I wasn't part of it, but I was part of it as a phys ed teacher and a coach, was Title IX in '72. With increase in the girls' sports. And it probably as of modern day, I think our allied sports program with the sports equity law that Maryland put in place to have a program for youngsters with disabilities has really been a highlight of an athletic career.
Looking back in your 45 years, is there something that you wish you could have done but it never happened?
That's a tough question.
I know that's a tough question.
I think when you look back, Baltimore County having a sport like football only since 1967, our facilities were never up to par. And we got a late start in having stadiums and lights, and thank goodness for the county government and Department of Rec and Parks with 5 artificial surface fields. That always put us behind, and we have to remember that it hasn't been Board of Education funds to put up the lights and so on. It's been a community effort. So one of the things that I feel that really regret is that not all 24 of our high schools have a lighted artificial surface stadium. Not to say that it will not occur in the future. Of course, the present economic climate has slowed that process down.
When you finally hand the torch off to the new coordinator of athletics
Correct.
in the Baltimore County Public School System, what quick advice would you give that individual?
Quick advice would be get out there and be seen. In other words, there's time in the office, but behind the scenes there's hundreds of chores to make help make the program run smoothly, but they have to be out there and establish that rapport with the community. Randy, let's face it, Baltimore County is a unique county to manage. As a superintendent, as a coordinator of a county-wide event, you have 3 different counties, east, west, and north, and to bring device, you have to be seen and get the faith in confidence of that community. So when you're at a game and the parent sees you, say, I've been meaning to ask you, and you establish that rapport where you're recognizable and make a visible presence.
Well, Ron, as a teacher in Baltimore County for 36 years and a coach for 36 years, and on behalf of high school sports in the Baltimore County Public School System, I want to thank you for all your blood, sweat, and tears, because your dedication to the program and to the students and staff of Baltimore County has just been outstanding. And to be somewhere for 45 years, you have a lot to be proud of. So we want to thank you for all your hard work.
I appreciate it very much. It's been a great ride.
And we'll have to have you back sometime later and see how retirement is when you finally hit retirement.
Worst thing happens, give an old timer a microphone, Randy.
Okay. All right. Listen, good luck. For High School Sports Scene, I'm Randy Dace. Thanks for watching. See you next time.